Hello legal hustlers. In this video we will delve into the Indian Councils Act of 1909 aiming to introduce limited Indian representation in the British Indian Legislative Councils. So let's begin. The Indian Councils Act of 1909 was a important legislative measure introduced by the British government in India. Also known as the Morley-Minto reforms, it aimed to increase Indian participation in the legislative process. The act marked a significant development in the Indian nationalist movement and paved the way for further political reforms. Let's see the background. The Indian Councils Act of 1909 was a British government in India who had a limited Indians representation in the legislative bodies. The act was a response into growing demands for political reforms and increased Indians' participation in governance. The British government hoped that granting some concessions would help pacify the Indians to nationalist movement. Features. The act expanded the size and powers of the provincial legislative councils. It introduced the concept of separate electorates, which allowed certain religious and social communities to elect their own representatives. The act also provided for the nomination of Indians to the Viceroy's Executive Council and the highest decision-making body in India. Impact. The act led to an increase in Indian representation in the legislative bodies, giving Indians a greater voice in governance. It provided a platform for Indian leaders to articulate their grievances and push for further reforms. The act, however, fell short of meeting the aspirations of Indian nationalists, who demanded complete self-governance. Criticisms. Indian nationalists criticized the act for not going far enough in granting Indians full control over their own affairs. Some felt that the provision of separate electorates fostered communal divisions and hindered national unity. The act was also criticized for maintaining British control over key areas of governance and administration. Contributions. The Indian Councils Act of 1909 laid the foundation for future political reforms in India. It created a platform for Indian leaders to gain political experience and articulate their demands. The act played a crucial role in mobilizing the Indian nationalist movement and shaping its future course. Subsequent reforms. The Indian Councils Act of 1909 was followed by the Government of India Act in 1919, which further expanded Indian representation and introduced limited self-governance. The act also paved the way for the Government of India Act in 1935, which granted further autonomy to the Indian provinces. These subsequent reforms built upon the foundations established by the Indian Councils Act of 1909. Legacy. The Indian Councils Act of 1909 marked an important milestone in India's struggle for self-governance. It demonstrated the growing strength of the Indian nationalist movement and its ability to influence British policy. The act remains a significant event in India's political history, symbolizing the ongoing struggle for independence. Conclusion. The Indian Councils Act of 1909 was a key legislative measure that aimed to increase Indian participation in the legislative process. While it fell short of meeting the aspirations of Indian nationalists, it laid the foundation for future political reforms. The act played a crucial role in mobilizing the Indian nationalist movement and shaping India's path towards self-governance.
Thank you for watching. We're thrilled to have you here and hope that you find our content informative, engaging, and entertaining. Be sure to like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to join us for further updates.